Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 4th, 2017, and we're in the Senator Hearing Room, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem for a weekly Board of Commissioners meeting. And if you would join me, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I hid this gavel. I was afraid it wouldn't be here when I got here. Since I have all this power now, I wanted to change things a little bit. Yesterday I was sworn in, and thank you. You said some nice things that surprised me. But everything was going good, and I had a list of things I wanted to say, and the subject was why I was decided to run again. But I made a little joke comment about my fellow commissioners, and then I got off track, and I left out really one of the really big reasons why I wanted to be here. And people just need to know our staff in the Board of Commissioners office is just excellent. They're friendly and efficient, and all they try to do is make me look good. And it was a key reason that I wanted to be back again. I just so love working with them. So I left that out, and I wanted to acknowledge them. Pardon me, but they need it. They deserve it. So with that, normally we have public comment. There is none. Consent calendar is the next item, and I think Commissioner Cameron, you've been a long time since you've been forced to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thank you.
I gotta call you that now. Yes, okay. Under the consent calendar, we have first item is under the Health Department, approve a contract for services with Scanit, Inc. for $200,000 to provide medical record scanning and back file conversions. Under the tax office, approve a property tax refund in the amount of $23,662.61 to Ferguson. Also under the tax office, approve a property tax refund in the amount of $45,855.91 to Hawthorne Premier LLC.
And just to be clear, you're making a motion.
Yes,
to
sir.
approve that.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve our consent calendar this morning. Is there any further discussion? I hear none. Oh, go ahead.
But I will try for perfection on the consent calendar during the year, sir.
You have, I think, 26 chances.
Okay.
All right. So.
You sure it's 26?
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, that motion passes. We have three items under our action this morning. The first is under Board of Commissioners. We consider a recommendation of the OLCC application for Remy's Nightclub and Sports Bar. And let's see, I don't know, Jason Myers, our sheriff, Laura Pekarik, and others will tell us what's going on there and perhaps advise what we should do.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Jason Myers. I'm the sheriff. We have done some background information on an OLCC application for Remy's Nightclub and Sports Bar. Laura Petrick from our office is going to give you some background on that. This business has been a source of a lot of law enforcement calls over the years for noise complaint and serving of alcoholic beverages and fights and things like that. And so we have a lot of information and some concern with this application. With that, I'll turn it over to Laura.
Good morning. I'm Laura Pekarik with Marion County Sheriff's Office. So I think you guys received a copy of the report that I wrote for my boss, which outlined all the different calls that had happened over a period of time. And so we have noise complaints. We have some criminal complaints as well coming in from that property. The property is owned by Don Wyant, and his father co-owned. And the business was owned and run by Joel Luria. He sold the business recently to another party. We had some questions about the whether this was going to change the scope of the business. Joel seemed to be under the understanding that the scope of business would change with the new owner. I did have conversation with the new owner at the property recently and found that scope of business was not going to change, that basically she was going to be continuing the same business that Joel had run from the property, which is, it's a sports bar and as well as an events bar where they have people hire them and rent the space, and then they bring bands in, and there's quite the surrounding areas behind the bar, where the back room is and where the area where the band is playing is all surrounded in the back area by apartments, residential properties, and trailer park or an RV park. The RV park is the most affected. They are the closest. Of course, RVs have the least amount of insulation in them, and they just kind of reverberate the noise inside. And that's where the bulk of our complaints are coming as far as the noise is concerned. We've had conversation. We've brought in the owners' attorneys. We've had a conversation with the business owner as well, and his staff, and trying to get them, encourage them to do some kind of noise mitigation in the back end of that building. None of that has happened. The business owner has basically refused to come in and do what he needs to do to make that noise-proof that area in the back, so that that's not continuing to be a problem for the people in the back, nor do they monitor the bands who go outside in the summertime and practice before they come into the bar itself, which has created some real problems for even the houses and the apartment complex behind. They have stopped that practice for the most part. However, they still have all the noise coming from the inside of the building going out, reverberating out, especially in the trailer park there. In fact, we've gotten to the place now where we have, when the bar gets cited for a noise violation, we've also started citing the property owner for the same noise violation, because our code allows for that. And we have issued 2 citations to the property owner. They pled guilty and paid the fines. It's $1,000 per fine, and that's as far as we've gotten. Since the new owner took over, and I believe that was December 1st, they have a temporary liquor license at this point. Since they took over, there has been 1 noise complaint. Unfortunately, our guys out in the field were really, really busy. They didn't get around to the bar to check the noise until after. You know, it's not that high priority thing, and they had other things, really serious things going on. So that one fell through the cracks. But we will be keeping an eye on it, and we'll continue to do the same thing that we're doing now, which is to cite both parties, both the people in the bar, the bar owner, as well as the property owner.
All right, question, go ahead.
Thank you for the overview. So I've got a couple questions. First of all, on the case itself. So we're very familiar with this nightclub because I think all of us as commissioners went out to the trailer park, got complaints from the owner, actually toured it, had a chance to kind of see how it was adjacent and so on. And then as commissioners, we actually changed our noise ordinance so that you could, because there was no problem with noise in a commercial zone, I think, up to that point. So we wanted to give you tools to be able to do that. So my first question on the case itself is, so if they plead guilty and just pay the fine, there's nothing beyond that, right? So
no.
Right. So we just keep finding them, and that's all we really can do.
Well, there is stuff beyond that, in that we turned all those reports over to OLCC, and they did deny Joel his license this last time, because he was up for a new license in December, and they denied it, which is why he sold the business to someone else, and they're now making application.
So then that's my second set of questions, or area of questioning, is that on OLCC licenses generally, if I recall, we've had some issues with them being responsive to our input unless we achieve that by a particular deadline. And I'm trying to remember, we created a whole new protocol where the sheriff's office was going to go through all of the liquor licenses to be reviewed in the upcoming year by, I can't remember, it was February or March, and then get those in, because otherwise when we send it in throughout the year, if we've missed the deadline, they don't care what we say. So are we still doing that protocol? I'm just wanting to make sure that didn't fall through the cracks and that we're still on board with making sure that we do that.
I believe so. I need to follow up on that because I recall the exact same thing that you just related, that there is a time frame. This one may be a little different because it's a new application.
Right.
But I will follow up and let you know.
Yeah, it just, when you were talking, I'm glad it's January, right?
Yeah,
Because I think we're good, but we want to make sure if there are others out there, and there's just a few that we have issues with. It's not like a lot, but I know that if we were to wait until June or July and they're up for renewal, and we put our complaint in then, it has no effect with OLCC at all. So we want to make sure that we do that. So the issue right now is that we actually send in on this particular application our concerns, so that, and our recommendation that they deny this license.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So if I could follow up on that, will this be renewed again in July or something, or this would be what? Would we get another chance to look at it before?
I
with
don't
rest
have
of
the
them?
paperwork in front of me on this one. I believe it's a new application for the new owner, so this is the process that OLCC goes through.
So for a full year, or does it get to be reviewed again halfway, or where are we at?
There is a renewal period, but what you're commenting on is this new application for this new business.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Chair, thank you, and thanks for, Laura, the detail that you presented to us in the record as well, of what you just talked about. Appreciate the hard work. One of the things I want to note, two things. One is the taxes haven't been paid on this property according to the record. About $19,000 are owed. Obviously, it's been cited. There's another email in here from the owner of the property saying the lease is not going to be renewed unless they can figure out how to mediate their noise issues. So I think we've got enough documentation here to definitely, we've worked and tried to help these people a lot and put in a lot of resources. And so I would, I guess it's not my motion, but I don't know what we need to do to not recommend a renewal at for this particular business, but also submit all the documentation we have to the OLCC to back up our recommendation.
And if I could tag on to that, so what are we doing about the tax issue? Is anyone doing anything about that?
I don't know how far in arrears they are, Madam Commissioner. At some point, we would proceed to take the property through the usual tax foreclosure process.
Let's look at it sooner rather than later, okay?
Absolutely.
Well, I have one thought that hasn't come up. I'm reading the property owner's letter. He kind of threatens to sue based on that we created an ordinance specific to an individual business. I don't believe we've done that in any form, but I guess that comment doesn't please me is all I'd tell you. So, what do we want to do?
Well, I would move that the board deny I'm not sure what the motion would be, that we would recommend denial on the OLCC application for Remy's Nightclub and Sports Bar.
And I'll second the motion.
Go ahead.
Comment. Yeah, I'm not the attorney sitting here, but we're not doing anything to the property owner here. It's the business owner that we're denying an application to. So was there a letter you were referring to? I didn't see.
Yeah.
Okay. That was way back in, was that April? Okay. Anyways, I'm not concerned about that.
It was March 21st to Laura.
So-
Go ahead.
Would it help for us to meet with the property owner or not, as a board? I mean, is there something, should we take this up a notch? It just feels like we're kind of in a circle where nothing's getting accomplished.
After my meeting with her, I did feel like our meeting was very successful, that she had any real interest in changing anything. We did talk at length about the need for noise mitigation on those back walls, to which she said she wasn't intending to do anything about it, that her intent was to eventually move someplace else. That was the last thing she kind of left me with.
So that was, my question was, should we move the property owner, not the business owner, the property
The
owner?
property owner.
Right, yes.
We've had quite a few meetings with the property owner. We certainly could try to have a meeting with the property owner. We've had several. They've been very unsuccessful.
I'm sorry, but I feel like this letter kind of says how he feels about it.
Right, that's what I'm
Kinda
saying,
telling
maybe
it.
we need to meet with him.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we invited the licensee to come and talk to you, and she, I guess, said she was gonna be here, but she hasn't shown up, so.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second to deny the application. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, just one further thing to add in here. The Oregon Administrative Rule governing local government recommendations on these applications does require that the local government's recommendation be grounded in one of the bases for denying a renewal or an application that OLCC has in its statutes. And I would direct your attention to ORS Chapter 471.313, subsection 5, which would permit OLCC to deny an application for a license if there is a history of serious and persistent problems involving disturbances, lewd or unlawful activities, or noise, either in the premises proposed to be licensed or involving patrons of the establishment in the immediate vicinity of the premises. I think that probably is the closest fit to what we're
Would you
doing
like the
here.
motion to
Yeah,
include
I'll-
reference to that?
I'll
Yes,
tag
Your
that
Honor.
onto my
Yes, sir.
motion.
Agreeable?
Yeah,
All right.
second that.
So the motion now
Christie's
is,
got it, right?
yes. So the motion is to deny, to recommend a denial of the OLC's application for Remy's Nightclub and Sports Bar in reference to RS 471.3135. Further discussion? I hear none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
I would make one more comment after the fact. I know we've worked with these people and done everything we
Right.
can to make it work for all involved. If they don't want to cooperate, it doesn't leave us any choice. All right, our next item is under Community Services. Consider approval of the contract for service with Ingalls and Associates for $116,075 to provide event coordination for the 2017 Marion County Fair, where I'll probably win again. Tamara Getch, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Tamara Getch, Director of Community Services. As you mentioned, this is an opportunity for you to consider a contract for services for the Ingalls and Associates to continue to provide event coordination for the Marion County Fair. In 2014, we issued an RFP for interested parties to apply to provide these services for Marion County. We had 2 applications at that time. The Ingalls and Associates were the selected applicant. They have currently provided event coordination services for the fair for the last 2 years, very successfully, I might add. In the Community Services Department, we appreciate their transparency, their collaboration, and their innovation that they've brought to the fair, and are just really easy to work with. And this is the last year of the contract that's allowed through the RFP that was issued in 14. So this is the third year. Typically, this contract would have come to you as an amendment of the original contract. However, we've had many amendments in this contract over this period, the last 2 years, and it was deemed might be most appropriate for us to get a really clean contract for this last year so that we can see everything that's going on. So that's what's before you. You have both the contract for services as well as the RFP that was issued originally that justifies the selection of the Ingalls for these services.
So Tammy, I'm looking for the page that adds up the 116,075. Is that in the contract?
Excuse me?
The components that add up to $116,075.
So,
Where is that?
so what we do with the 116, we take their contract, it's much more than just an amount. We have to do some guesstimates here, and we try to guesstimate outside of what, we've added both their contract for services. We do a monthly charge for their services. We pay them for those. We also pay them for also any services at the fair that they provide. So, for example, any small contract that they have to pay for.
Right. If I'm just asking, is there a page?
There is not a
All right,
page.
and there's, in her proposal, it's 118,524, so I'm trying to reconcile the two numbers.
So that's just a scenario in the RFP that they were applying that to in 2014.
No, this is in her proposal, so it's almost at the end.
The 118, yes, this
Yeah.
was in the proposal in 2014.
Oh, this was her proposal from
Yes,
before.
for the
I see, okay.
RFP.
All right, so if we could, and I'm not gonna hold up the contract, I think it would be useful to have like a budget page that shows the different components. I think we've done that in prior contracts, just to make sure that they understand that so much is for marketing and so much, and I realize things can move around, but.
Right.
But we have two different budget pages in the contract, neither of which add up to the number that the board's approving. So if we could just add that,
I got it.
does that make sense?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, so on, under C, total reimbursable expenses is 86,075, and up above, under A is 30,000, is the flat fee. Those add up to 116,075.
So where's that? What page?
So it's on page 11,
Okay,
under number 2, compensation.
right.
Method of payment for services, A, is 30,000 flat fee paid on a monthly
Okay,
basis.
7. And then what I'm suggesting is the expense reimbursement.
That's,
Okay, so that's so it says authorized under this Exhibit A, 86,075. But oftentimes, are we running contracts through them that they're subcontracting for?
Correct.
Right.
So they provide a lot of services for the small contract.
Maybe
and
you can
then-
just provide it to me.
Sure.
As the liaison, I'm interested in making sure
Certainly.
that there's a connection between that.
that's a good question. I don't see Exhibit A. There it is.
Well,
Oh, that's
Exhibit
it.
A.
That is
Exhibit A-
referring to where I
yeah,
was reading.
right,
Okay,
exactly.
Right.
But if you look on page, doesn't have a number.
To page
So if you-
12.
If you go to the PDF numbers, okay, it's 87 of 88 is what it is. On the bottom of it.
So
Right.
87 of 88 is the RFP.
Right,
So-
exactly, that's what I'm saying, but that was what they did was they tied it to the portions of the budget, so you can see that they're actually getting money for the talent show, for entertainment,
Right.
that type of thing, and then they're doing those subcontracts. And that's one of the things that we changed a few years back, was that instead of the county contracting for all these things, we subcontract for them through the coordinator. So, I mean, it's just good to make sure that that's understood.
Yes, yes. So what we've done, how we came up with the 86,075 that's referenced on page 12 of 88, that number took into account all of the contracts or services that we anticipate them providing, securing for the fair. And then we've actually put in a $10,000 buffer in that amount so that we don't have to amend the contract, but it's language is in there that it only allows for approved by the fair board expenditures to be reimbursed. Because one of the things we want to avoid is amending the contract during the fair.
I've heard you maybe didn't want to, but is there something to add to the motion that would capture what you're looking for? Or you just want it personal like you?
Well,
referred
I
to?
mean, I don't want her to have to come back
No.
and if we add something to the contract, it's hard for us to vote on something we haven't seen.
All right.
You know, I mean, I know how that works. So I think if you just provide the detail, but, you know, I just would recommend that if we're
Sure.
doing this in the future, that we have the specificity in there about the subcontracting. Because, you know, I think even though we hand that off to them, there's a legal responsibility that the county has in terms of providing money for a contractor to subcontract for services for a fair that's managed by the county. And so I think we want to be clear about what those expectations are so that they don't just get, you know, you could have a different contractor that you didn't trust as much that could then not provide you the service that you're anticipating they provide. And if it's not spelled out in the contract, you don't really have any basis upon
Right.
which to tell them that they didn't follow through on the terms of the contract. So I know that Jill and Scott are very trustworthy. It's just you're always looking at the dark side when
Yep.
you're looking at
I agree.
the contract provisions.
All right.
You okay with the motion?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll consider that we approve move that we approve the contract for services with Ingalls and Associates, Inc. for the $116,075 to provide event coordination for the 2017 Marion County Fair.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve signing the service contract with Ingalls Associates. Just one comment, I've just enjoyed working with them, and I watch, and I know they're effective. When I go to the fair, I see them doing anything from hauling ice on their backs to whatever it takes to make it work, and I do appreciate that.
Agree.
So, anything else? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you
Tammy.
very much.
The last item's back with the sheriff office. We consider approval of an intergovernmental agreement for incoming funds with the Oregon Health Authority, Oregon State Hospital for $50,000 to provide transport services. Again, Sheriff Jason Myers and Commander Sheila Lawrence.
Good morning
Are you
again,
without plastic badges, or, no, those are real? All right,
This
thank
one's real, yours
All
is
right.
plastic, sorry.
That's what I was afraid of.
You have a plastic.
Good morning again,
James,
Commissioners. So for the record, I'm Jason Myers, the sheriff. We have before you an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority. And as you might remember, several months ago, we had a similar agreement where the state hospital had approached us about doing transports for their patients. The state hospital's accrediting body had made a determination because of the nature of the transports that they needed a law enforcement official to make those transports for them, and the officials that work at the hospital are not law enforcement. And so they approached us about having an intergovernmental agreement to cover the costs, all costs associated with transports of patients from the hospital to other medical appointments in the community and other hospital appointments in the community, and then back to the hospital. And so we started that, and that was with the aid and assist population. This is the patients who are unable to aid in their own defense and are subject to the hospital for services until they're able to aid, and then they go back to the local county where they proceed through the judicial process. This contract is extending that to the GEI population, which is the guilty except for insanity population at the state hospital. They believed at the time they were able to transport those individuals, but the accrediting body has come back and said, no, you can't. You need law enforcement to do transports for those individual patients as well. So this is additional contract to cover both of the different types of patients at the state hospital for transports. And I might reiterate that no county general fund is subsidizing this. This is all the transports that we are performing. The state is covering all costs for our employees, the vehicles, and everything included that goes along with that.
All right. Questions or comments?
It's pretty straightforward. We've seen it, heard about
I
it.
don't have any questions, so.
Just one comment
ahead.
I have then, if I could, but couple things. They're simple. One, you just said it covers all costs to us, so that pleases me, of course. But what's kind of left out, these are pretty dangerous people. I'm making this up, but to protect the public, it demands a higher level of security and protect the individuals themselves. So I'll be all in favor of this. All right, anything else?
Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the intergovernmental agreement for incoming funds with the Oregon Health Authority, Oregon State Hospital for $50,000 to provide transport services.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve the intergovernmental agreement on transportation with Oregon State Hospital. Any further discussion? Hear and see none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes, and thank you. And
Thank you.
maybe come back and let us know how that's working too. I know I'm making this up, but there's probably some risks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have on our agenda this morning, other than to read the places we'll be together. The list isn't as long as it usually is, but it's starting to grow. Our first item is this afternoon at noon. We'll meet with the Marion County Woodburn meeting at Luis's Taqueria, 523 Front Street in Woodburn. And then following that, we're going to take a look at the tour. We're going to tour the Wood Park Terrace Apartments at 1025 Park Avenue. These are some apartments in Woodburn from Housing Authority operates, and been doing some remodel and rebuilding. Curious to see how that's going. Tomorrow morning, 9:30, Thursday the 5th, we have a department head elected official meeting in the Commissioner's Boardroom at 5th floor, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. Monday, 8 o'clock to 3, Association of Oregon County Steering and Legislative Committee Board Meeting, Local Government Center, 1201 Court Street Northeast in Salem. Tuesday, 7:30. On the 10th, a State and Marion County meeting at the Covered Bridge Cafe, 510 North 3rd Avenue, Staten. Then Tuesday at 9 o'clock, calendar review. Silver and Conference Room, 5th floor, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. On the 10th, Tuesday again. Following that, at 10 o'clock, the semi-annual Service District meeting. That'll be in the Silver and Conference Room, 5th floor, 555 Court Street. And then we'll also have, management update, a strange time. Tuesday, 1:30 to 3 in the Silver and Conference Room, 5th floor, Court Street. And then next Wednesday at 9 on the 11th, we'll have our next board session. So, first meeting of the year. Wasn't perfect, Kevin, I'll tell you that, but pretty happy about it.
Somebody messed up the consent calendar,
Well,
the motion on the consent
that could
calendar.
happen.
Well, I don't see the Public Safety Coordinating Council in here either. It usually gets noticed, so
Do you want to go
we'll
ahead
have to
and
make
you
sure
have
that
it?
gets added. Yeah, it's at 4 o'clock on January 10th in the Commissioner's Boardroom here
Okay,
at Courthouse Square.
all right.
So I've got something
Oh, good.
to
Well,
talk
it's
about.
probably because I won't be there, because I always go to the ballroom.
Yeah,
Right,
you'll find it in a couple more years.
yeah, but need to be noticing those out of the board office.
Senior update, why are you looking at me? Let's
Well,
whoa.
no, so here's the deal. I opened my mailbox yesterday and Kurt Schrader sends me a piece of information and it's a senior update. So I figure I am officially a senior if the Congress thinks that I am.
Well, I would like to argue. but- And any hints?
Did you get one?
Some time ago. I haven't been updated lately, but I'm feeling more senior.
All right.
Were there any
I was just
hints or
like-
anything helpful
I was
in
like,
it?
what is
I'm
this?
ta-
And
it's
then I
payback.
realized it's a senior update. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the
Alright.
first one I've ever received, so it's kind of a,
Senior here, and I didn't get
well, why am I singled out as a senior? That's what I want to know. You got one? Oh, okay. Well, that makes me feel better.
You think the only one in his congressional district, he chose you? Is that what you really
I'm
think?
just saying.
Well, we'll have to look into
Is there
that.
an age thing here? That's what I want to know.
All right, anything? I see one person. Have you been addressed this morning, or were you looking? All right, wonderful. Anything you want to tell us about the holidays? Did you get a new tie? Anything special?
I
No.
didn't get a new tie.
You
No,
didn't?
No, I didn't.
I'll tell you what, getting in here this morning, I know those of us that are just downtown think it was a pretty easy deal, but I went by Crosser Middle School today and inch or so of snow on the ground, icy roads, people sliding all over the place, no sand down. It was kind of a disaster out there.
Yeah, it was snowing pretty heavy when I left my neighborhood. But as
Windy?
soon as I hit Madrona, it was
quit.
like a desert. It was just like,
Right.
there was nothing.
So,
It was weird.
Again, those people that been out there working are, public safety, but also our public works people over the last week and coming up that
Yeah,
we
a
just
whole
really
week
want
to come, I'm afraid.
Yeah, thank people for being out there in this kind of inclement weather, doing the jobs they're doing. So, yeah, I still got snow on the top of my.
Well, yes, I
car
see
down there.
people from Kaiser too, and I went to the Mount Angel City Council last night, and, so everything's just fine. It's cold, but the road's dry. But then from just prior to the Oregon Garden through Silverton, it was kind of scary. So these kind of spots could happen, sneak up on people was,
The other thing I will say publicly, I need to ask for forgiveness. I'm signing in the wrong spot.
Uh-oh.
Well,
so we have to
No,
redo all
I was
these
down on the
documents.
We're
second-
gonna have to
I
make
was
staff change all
down on the
of those.
second line, and then I just realized I should be on the third line, and then I looked at the last one, I signed under chair. This payback.
Yeah. You just
Don't
can't
give-
let it
you
go,
can't
can
give
you?
I'm
him-
getting
You
the-
can't give him the documents first. That's the lesson there.
I'm getting the year right.
We'll start him over on this end, and by the time it gets down to him, he only has one choice.
Hopefully by the end of this year, we can at least get that squared away.
I'm getting the year right.
All right,
though.
before we get to it, anything serious you want to tell us? Go ahead. There
I
must be
did.
something.
Yeah. I was just.
That's it, slick?
Well, there's a lot of important issues that we're gonna have to be addressing in this new year, so. I think it was interesting that the one that they chose in the Statesman Journal was about the waste energy facility and the metro issue, which certainly we're gonna be in the middle of. But also there are a number of major healthcare, mental health, and public safety issues that I know I'm gonna be working on, so it's gonna be an interesting year.
I've got my list. In fact, I kind of went over them yesterday. I didn't probably mention it's come up again. And some good movement on it, the Donald interchange. There's going to be a presentation at MWAC tomorrow night that will talk about, it's a chicken and egg kind of thing. They need the plans and engineering done before it can go any further, but they say that you're not shovel ready, so we're not going to do the engineering plans. Well, somebody's got to make a move, so we're going to make a recommendation that ODOT find that money moving along. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. It is becoming one of our worst. Yes.
It's going to be an interesting year for developing the budget. Legislature in session, and they're assuming that there's some kind of a deficit. We really don't know what they're going to do, particularly with what's happening in Washington on healthcare. It's one of our biggest budgets. And it's going to be difficult to make some assumptions about what the state's going to fund and what the federal government's going to fund. So it could be dicey.
Right.
Now, that little comment scares me, because as normal is, we'll be fine this year, but next year is going to be a real problem. Well, he's just moved it up to this year in my book. Great.
Well, it's a planning problem, Mr. Chair.
All
We
right.
don't really, it's hard to forecast when you don't know what they're going to
Sure.
do.
If I could just make you feel better, we've never forecast that very well ever, because we always have 9 million amendments to contracts from OHA. I mean, how many do we go through? So it's always a shell game.
It doesn't, I mean, it still amazes me, being in the legislature, how school districts were approving budgets on July 1st, yet the legislature hadn't approved
Right.
the amount of money that they were gonna give them.
And so the school districts complain loudly about that, but counties have been doing that on a whole lot of issues for years and years. Falls on deaf ears, so.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think a lot of people don't understand that counties really are administrative units for the state. We provide the programs that they fund. And so it's really important that we know what they're going to fund.
Just because it's somewhat related, tomorrow we have our department head meetings, and the subject is going to be from each department to kind of let us know what they're afraid of and, or what they're supporting, so, well, I can turn you two loose on them to make it happen is what I'm thinking, but there are important issues facing us. I'm anxious to see what people are concerned about. All right, anything else? Then let's call this meeting adjourned.
So, John?